All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is 4:30 on Thursday. What can I say? Theme of the day, continuation to the upside. We continue to grind higher. Today was a little bit more than probably most expected. I mean, it's pretty darn near amazing. You had SPY finish up almost 1% for the day, up 80 basis points. Q's finished up just about 1%, and then the star of the day, which I think it's now the third day of outperformance for the small caps. So, this is one of the things that we really wanted to see. They were lagging for the last couple weeks, and this was kind of uh, I want to say like the linchpin for me to kind of stay in the market was to see some participation and big participation for the small caps this week. This was one of the things that was kind of like as we closed out the week last week, it was one of the kind of things that was basically like a warning signal. Hey, large caps are going up. Nasdaq is going up, but why aren't the small caps participating at all? And now we've kind of seen that play out. So, uh, really nice. And I think you're kind of like in terms of participation and so forth, you're kind of getting everything, um, at this point. So that's the theme of the day. Continuation. The other thing is, what I'm noticing is, and I was going to say this around lunchtime because we continue to see these, the overnight moves, right? We opened up, small caps opened up the session about what, up like 0.75%. They were really bid pre-market. And, typically this is what happens is the majority of the moves for the market happen in the overnight market, not during the day. But, and I was, when I went to get lunch today, I was like, wow, once again, we really haven't moved that much. And then I looked, and I'm like, well, actually, we're doing okay, from the open, right? We had a lot of chop again in the first couple of hours of the day, but the last hour, strong. Saw that at the end of the day yesterday too. Looked like things were kind of moving to the downside, and we saw a nice recovery right at the end of the day. Same things was if I go to the small cap chart. I was looking at this in terms of the January value area. Bring up the daily chart, and they just barely closed above value. I mean, it was like in the last 10 minutes of the day yesterday that the small caps pushed. Remember on Tuesday, they rallied and they could not get above value, and then just right at the end of the day yesterday. And of course, I closed one of the small cap trades that I had on because I closed it like right in here because it looked like we were breaking lower. Really tricky, like shook me out on this, and then and then you see what we did overnight. So impressive, right? But if we would have closed, so we just again barely closed and triggered that buy signal at the end of the day. Remember, you could trade index options till 4:15, right? So if you want to trade RUT, or if you want to trade IWM or SPY or Qs, you could trade them to 4:15. So if you get shaken out of a move, you always put the trade back on. By the way, so small caps, my target, because I have the small caps in a couple. I had them in my short-term trading account. I also have them in the tactical portfolio. Uh, we made that substitution earlier in the week, and I subbed out of. I've already talked about this, but I subbed out of Tesla and Apple. Took profits in both those names earlier in the week, and I substituted into IWM. And I timed this one very well. The trades won't always work out that way in terms of timing. So I'm looking to take a decent chunk of this off at this virgin point of control, and then we'll kind of see what happens. Also notice that you've got a R1 resistance level as well. That coincides with that VPOC. So I think that's a great place to kind of to take that off. So again, that was the big move. Also, besides, I'm going to get to sectors next, but this is another something else that we have in the tactical portfolio as well. This PSCH, which is breaking out. Remember, again, I put this on Twitter, but just to kind of help people because I think a couple people had questions about this. They're like, well, why, this is kind of fooling you because there's no volume in this. Remember, with an ETF, it's all an ETF does is track an underlying, either a commodity, either whatever it's set up to track. So in this situation, it's set up to track small cap healthcare names, and then it moves on the performance of them. You don't need volume in the ETF. It's going to do exactly what the underlying names in it. So this group has been super hot. Small cap biotech, small cap healthcare. I don't know what has been the catalyst the last couple days, but there's a lot of names that are showing up on people's radar that are just completely flying high. What was the one name? NVCR, which is up 11%. If you just go through some names, GBT saw a big roll. This name's up. This game is beasting out to the upside. DVAX is one name. This is a very small cap name, but I mean, this really is telling you like. So this looks like a pretty decent setup. Another name that I'm looking at, I'll give you a setup that I have that I did not put this trade on yet. This INMD, which a member brought this up to me. It's almost looking like it's going to break out. NVTA is another one that's gotten going. So, really, really strong performance. And if you look, right, so I hope that if you're not familiar with that concept, that you don't need to look at the volume of the ETF. What you should be doing is going through the individual names, and then you can look for the volume within those names. But you could see, what's been going on in this one. CYH, which was also on the list yesterday. ENDP, which has been performing. MNTA, I think, which was up 10% yesterday. It's up another 4% today. So it's strong. Look at how many names in this thing are over 2%. They're not even fit on one screen. Whew. I mean, that's really strong breath for that group. So I don't have that on my list here of sectors. Also, the robotics names have been very strong. We talked about that, I think, in the weekend video. Banks, of course, with Morgan Stanley reporting. Interesting, Morgan Stanley was up big, and the Bank of New York was down. I didn't see where it finished, but it was down 7%. The transports, I don't know how that's going to shake out tomorrow with CSX reporting, which, wow, has really made a nice move there. I was looking at this. This was coiled. I never put the trade on. It looks like it's made a nice move over the last week. Down a little bit. Don't forget KSU, I think, reports tomorrow. So if one is up, one is down, it's not going to make much difference. But we'll see how that shakes out. Retail was strong today as well. Didn't move too much after the open, but I think with retail sales, we saw that group very strong out of the gate. Names like Costco were strong. Finished up. Looks like that's actually an underperformer considering the whole group is up 1.2%. But I saw that name very strong out of the gate. Fang participated today. Semis, which were weak yesterday, bounced back quite nicely. This AMD, I know sometimes this stuff looks obvious after the fact, but if you looked at AMD, even this little congestion area resolved itself to the upside. So, that as well is what we're seeing over and over. Consolidation in an uptrend and then move higher. The REITs did fine today after they broke out yesterday. One name that I had talked about in the room yesterday, I did not put the trade on until this morning. It was the name that I went over in the pre-market session. I said I'm going to be looking at Home Depot. It's really tough I will say this, it's hard to add new trades, but we're continuing to see, setups materialize. I would say, continue to kind of do your homework and let the setups come to you. You don't need to force trades. We kind of just wait for something to trigger like this Home Depot did. And again, we got in before the option activity, right? That's the whole goal. I know some people that they only look at flow on the tape. They're really like looking through they have tunnel vision if you're doing that. You're going to find the setups. And it's so great, it really is, to get into a name before it sees call activity. I mean, do you think that was by accident that they saw call activity? I figured out the chart yesterday that it was showing some, it's they don't know anything in Home Depot. It just looks like a good setup, and then they start buying calls in it, and it's got momentum to it. It's not rocket science, but if you do the homework, I say it all the time, you can get into a lot of areas, a lot of names before the call buying. So much better, in my opinion, than to have to chase a name after it's already up 1% on the day. So again, we hit this one pretty nice, and that was my trade of the day. Also, Mosaic was another trade that I added today. So again, like, even though I'm being very cognizant of what the market and how stretched it's becoming, but I'm making sure that I'm taking off more risk, even if I have to force some exits. Like, I was forcing an exit today, and a little bit of CME, even though I think CME can go higher. And just a couple other names. I'm just forcing some exits because I continue to want to be disciplined right now, and making sure that I'm still in the game, but um, making sure that you're taking profits. Keep in mind, tomorrow's Friday. It's option is expiration. Don't expect anything crazy. It's not quadruple witching or anything. It's just regular monthly expiration. And then just keep in mind, we have a 3-day weekend. So here's what I would expect for tomorrow. It's kind of like this. The last 2 Fridays have not been great trading days. Not to say I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what that means for tomorrow. But I would think that there's not going to be a big momentum day tomorrow. So that's how my plan will be tomorrow, is to trade around some things and so forth, but not like add any. I'm not adding any risk tomorrow. Certainly not, and going into a 3-day weekend. So again, if it happens to we have a great trading day tomorrow, so be it. But I don't. I'm not playing for a nice day for tomorrow. I think you want to be more going to be much more on the conservative side for tomorrow. Other names that just saw some option activity. I thought the stamps was interesting. Cisco saw some calls. Cisco does not look bad, by the way. Now it came out of value, still underneath the 200-day moving average, but again, just something else that's participating into this weakness. I even made a little bit of money on a short today. I was short. I went short Twilio yesterday. I think I talked about that name yesterday, and into the morning took the trade off. Again, I think if you're going to try shorts in some names, you got to be quick until we see some confirmation that a trend is broken, which is not here nor there right now. MDT. You have to be careful. I try to give examples of when option flow does not work. MDT is on the high, so it could go higher, but this is a name, right around the highs, saw option activity. Now, it could be taking another leg higher, but it kind of looks a little bit stretched. Micron and AMD also saw some calls right out of the gate, and Micron. All right, guys, so we'll leave it there for the day. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you guys bright and early in the trading room. Anybody who's looking to join our trading room, you check us out at tribecatrading.com. Oop, there, I'll put this up. You could just go right to my profile, and you could go tribecatradegroup.com, or you could just click on this link, and that should open up here and give you basically everything that we do. It's not opening right now, but there you go. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.